Hello and welcome back to the Cardiff Central podcast. It's still the autumn internationals and no on-field action for the Blue and Blacks, but we're here with a special episode as Cardiff second row Josh McNally joins us to talk his career to date, the environment at the Arms Park, life under WRU uncertainty, and a huge upcoming fixture block, amongst other things. Joining me on the panel this week, we've got regular panelist Steve Coombs. Steve, how are you?
Very well, thanks, Dan.
And making his first appearance of this season, Harley Worthy. Harley, how are you?
Yeah, we're all good. It's nice that we're recording when it's not rugby training night.
Yeah, as we have moved it around. I was going to say, especially for the guests, but it was me who moved it around because I wanted to go and watch Wales play football last night. So we were doing this on Wednesday evening, and the reason for that is our final panelist is a man who's played for Henley Hawks, London Welsh, London Irish, and Bath. Has been at Cardiff since the summer of 2024. He's made 26 appearances in all competitions so far. Has one England cap to his name, but we'll let him off with that one. It's Josh McNally. Josh, how are you?
Very well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thank you very much. We'll say at the top of the pod, it was Josh who reached out to us to come on, which is very much appreciated, and great to see that link up between players and supporters. We'll start, Josh, as we always do when we have players coming on the podcast, with just your rugby journey. Where does it start for you, and what is seemingly a bit of a winding journey to professional rugby for you?
Yeah, it's a lot different to everyone else, I suppose. I think the traditional route now is your academy, going through a school system. But yeah, I was very, very different. I think at the age of some of our players now, 18, 19, rugby wasn't really on my radar. I joined the military. My father was in the military, in the army. I wanted to join up. The army actually didn't want me, so that was a bit of a first setback, but their loss, I suppose. And then I went to join the RAF. Started playing rugby a little bit. Sport's quite big in the military, so they love giving you time off to play sport. I was never going to turn my nose up at time off, so sort of took a bit of rugby under my wing. Obviously, I played at school and a bit of club rugby as a youngster, but never thought I was going to get anywhere near a professional level. And started playing rugby in the military, and then probably 3 years into that, I'm close to my mid-20s now, and an opportunity to play professionally at London Welsh came up, and I couldn't believe it really. So jumped at it with both arms really, and I think that was I was always quite didn't want to sit and be comfortable. I always wanted to push myself. That I remember going from RAF to Henley Hawks. That was a big jump, like playing National 2, National 1 rugby, and then going to London Welsh, which was, I went there with full of hope, but I was never really going to play. It was going to be, I was holding a bag all year, but at the end of that year, when we were automatically relegated, well, not automatically relegated, we were relegated before, I think March, I think it was. Started to get some game time, and I think my professional career really kicked on from there, really.
Just sort of going up with the Welsh Rush thing. What was it like being at the club and finding out it was going bust and everything was?
Yeah, tough, very tough. Yeah, I think firstly when I turned up at London Welsh, I thought it was professional rugby, and it was the experience I've got now. It was far from it. I think they were struggling to keep their head above water for a long time. Calvin Bryan was funding it pretty on his own. It was a bit of a money pit of a club, and I think I wasn't there the first time they got promoted and relegated, but it was a point deduction, I think, wasn't it, that they got relegated with. And then the second time we were there in the Premiership, we got relegated. A lot of wage bills because they recruited a lot of guys. If you remember, it was Piri Wipu, Dean Schofield, Ollie Barkley. It was like a whole host of names that were taking a decent wage, and then the club slowly folded from there, really. And it was tough. I think the administration and the thing that we hear quite regularly now, like that, no one really heard of it before. It was quite a bit out of the shock. No one knew what it meant. No one knew where a club would go, how it would sort of survive, if it would survive. And yeah, it was a pretty dark time, and I'll never forget it. Like leaving that meeting and 30 lads all on the phone to the agents, hoping for another contract somewhere else, like that wasn't really there. I mean, it happened in December, like there was just nothing there for anyone to go to. So I was fortunate that I'd already been in conversations to leave the club anyway, and I managed to go a bit earlier than planned. So yeah, it was a tough time, but that model of owning a club with no sort of revenue stream coming in was never really going to survive.
So back in the here and now, how exactly does it work balancing your RAF commitments with your commitments to Cardiff? Are you is it you spending the whole week with Cardiff, or are you popping back in RAF duty? Or
yeah, it's a good question. I think like they're really good. The RAF and I think all three services have a similar program. We call it the Elite Athletes Scheme, where we got a whole host of athletes on it. And basically, all it means is that it withdraws you from your primary role. So I'm an engineer, a weapons engineer. The role I was doing before I went on this scheme, that was filled by someone else. They managed to get someone else in, posted over to that role, and it allowed me to sort of sit in an empty role where I can just now focus on sport. So there's no requirement for me to go back and do my primary role, or like rugby is now my primary role. There is a commitment and by playing the RAF games like I did last year. I need to play 2 of those a year, or it's up for negotiation really, but ideally play 2 of them. And then if I can just spread the word of the RAF, do a bit of engagement. I've been to a few colleges in South Wales. I've done a bit of recruitment drive with the recruitment guys in South Wales. And I've been doing that sort of my whole career. The more I can shed the light on what the military can give you, what the RAF can give you, that's sort of their pound of flesh they want from me. So it's something I still stay connected to. It's still something I believe I'll go back to once I finish playing rugby. So the more I can give them, the more I can make it a two-way sort of relationship, the better, and feel like we're both winning from it, really.
they don't expect you back by a certain time. Like if you want to carry on playing until you're 40, like hopefully say, or really low, is that
Yeah, I think it gets reviewed. It gets reviewed every couple of years. So any contract length, I'll go to them. So I'll take this last 2 years, for example. So I was about to leaving Bath. I get a contract offer from Cardiff. I take that to the RAF. They look at it and go, look, yeah, it's a good opportunity. They speak to jockey or whoever's the coach and say, look, what's your aspirations? What do you want from Josh? We need him as a leader and a bit of experience. Perfect. Sounds like a good fit. And then it's just like they just take a sort of every decision as unique. If I turned around and said to them, look, my time at Cardiff's done and I want to go and sign for a team in the bottom of the English Championship, they'd probably start thinking like, come on, like your time's done now. So it's a conversation every time. Luckily for my career, I've played at the top level or aspired to play at the top level for as long as I can. And I've always said to them, if I feel like I'm not competing at that level, I'm not going to keep riding this wave for. I'll pull the pin before you guys do, basically. So they've been really good with that, and they'll support me playing at this level for as long as possible, really.
During your stint with the London Irish, it came after that London Welsh stint, you had quite a serious heart surgery, and I think it was effectively a stroke that you'd suffered, it turned out. What was dealing with that like?
Yeah, tough. I did have a stroke. Very weird time. Just played a game, travelling home as normal, and just started very irritable, and couldn't focus properly. And then, fell through the front door. Basically, was conscious but couldn't really get any words out. Sarah, my wife, thought I was drunk, and then quickly realised that the time didn't work out. That it was 6 o'clock in the afternoon. She managed to she's reacted really well. Spoke to the club doctor. They're like, no, it's fine. They sort of suspected something like this, like a bleed or something that was affecting my brain, because that doesn't just happen. I've walked off the pitch fine. Straight to hospital. By the time I got to hospital, I was absolutely fine. Nothing was flagging up. All my tests were coming back fine. No symptoms, nothing. The only thing I could really sense was like, if you're like in the back of a taxi on the way from like on a night out, and you're like trying to focus like with your one eye, like that's the only thing I can really remember. Sort of said that, and they were like, "Oh right, okay." So then they sent me for all the tests for strokes, like nothing came back, and then they basically discharged me, like you'll be fine, don't worry. And then one neurologist just said like, "Oh, if you just to be like definitely certain, like maybe get the club to book you an MRI," and then went for MRI on my head and found scar tissue in my brain. So it was completely insane. Felt absolutely fine, nothing wrong with me. My grandfather had a stroke that early that year, and it completely changed his life. And so a stroke in our family was quite a huge word. So trying to tell the family that I was fine was a nightmare. And then he was just trying to find out what caused it. Like the people kept saying, you can't just keep having strokes on a rugby pitch. Like we need to find out what's caused this. And then a friend of mine reached out completely out of the blue and just said, "Oh, this happened to me." He was in the RAF as well. He was like, "This happened to me in Afghanistan. It was a hole in the heart. Went straight for a test, found a hole in the heart, and had it solved." So quite a weird process. I stared retirement straight in the face for about 3 weeks. Very odd, and it wasn't just retirement in terms of I'll just go back to the RAF. Like even RAF was in question as well. So that like my whole plan B was up in the air, and then just had a minor surgery, three months on blood thinners, and went back playing as if. And to be honest, like I get asked this question every now and again, and it's the only time I really think about it. If I'm honest, I'll go to a new club and a doc will flag it and be like, "Hang on, what happened here?" And I'll tell them, and then I'll go for a scan and just to clear it for them for their benefit. But yeah, I've come out of that fairly lucky, I think. I think they're like did a little work with looking at strokes and stuff afterwards, and it's sort of like when it happens, it's a bit of a lottery and how bad it affects you. It's not about how fit you are, how young you are. It just depends how long the lack of oxygen to your brain is that it affects you. And I was extremely lucky to come out of that and not have a life-changing injury, let alone play rugby again. So extremely fortunate. But yeah, just it's weird. Like when you have an injury, shoulder, hamstring, you'll always have that in the back of your head when you go play rugby. Like I never felt anything in my heart, my head, and was able to just go back and play rugby without thinking about it again.
I suppose one of those things as well, like most rugby injuries, you just don't really. There's nothing you can really do about it.
No.
Well,
it was weird. Like I was on blood thinners whilst the heart healed, and then it was like a circle on the calendar of like when I could start doing contact again. And it was I didn't have to think about it. There was no like any shot. I've had shoulder injuries. I've had neck injuries where you're a bit like, do I want to go back into collisions again? And you're a bit tentative. But it was weird. Yeah, it was just like came off blood thinners, 2 days to let it get out of my system, and I was straight back into full contact and mauling and scrumming. It was and I was back playing within a week. So very very odd injury. I still reach out to. It's weird. I think this happens to athletes all over the world in different sports, and obviously the first thing I did was Google it, and there wasn't really anyone. But I think my name must come up now with an article and I've spoken to some amazing athletes around the world that have had this similar issue, and all I've done is offer advice and hopefully help them through their recovery as well.
Sorry, the scientist in me is just getting morbidly fascinated. But move on to something a bit more normal, with it in rugby terms. So after you spent London Irish, you moved to Bath, where you became a bit of a mainstay there and captain the club. What was it like to play there, and how do you reflect on your time there?
Yeah, I loved it. I think I probably learned the most there. I think the other clubs I just was there. I just wanted to play. I just wanted to get minutes in the Premiership or the Championship or wherever I was playing. I think where Bath, I went there and established myself pretty quickly, and learnt so much there. I think I've learnt how not to do it and how to do it in the same club. A lot of the things that I now think about when I'm at Cardiff or in any sort of situation I'm in, I've probably gone through at Bath. So yeah, I still live in Bath now, and still see the city like very fondly. It's very similar to Cardiff, very similar. Just a smaller city, really. So it's a rugby mad city. Stadium right slap bang in the middle. There's a buzz around the place when there's a game, and the people in the city are crazy about rugby. And when it's going well, like you see the scenes of them winning the treble last year, and the people on the streets and the bus tours, it's an amazing place to be. But when we were doing pretty poorly, losing every week, it was quite a claustrophobic place that I tried to avoid at all costs. So yeah, it was the fans are great, but I think that year when we finished bottom of the league, we couldn't win a game. We couldn't even buy a win. Like that was probably the toughest year of my career. Like tough to play, tough to go for a coffee in town, tough to take kids to school. Like it took its toll that year.
Yes, it's interesting because I'm probably a bit old school, but I think of Bath and Cardiff as being quite similar clubs, as you say, like right in the centre of the city, and kind of old story clubs. I'm just curious, what are the similarities as a player, the similarities and the differences in terms of the culture at the club?
I think Bath is coming. This is something we worked on when we were at Bath. I think Bath lost its history a little bit. I think it went through a bit of a trying to buy success. I think bought some of the best players in the world. Talk like when Toby was there. British and Irish Lions everywhere, and I think it lost its identity a little bit. And I think after that year, they went semi-final of 2015, and then just sort of middled it out for about 10 years. And I think it's only now when they're starting to win and starting to draw that back out of the city, draw the history out of the club. You guys like Andy Robinson back at the club. You got guys, sons playing there now, like the Ajomos, the Glanvilles. It's really drawing back on the history of the club, and I think Cardiff has that, and it always has. I don't think Cardiff's lost that, and it's something that I didn't quite realise as well. I think I always saw that in the city, the club that has a stadium in the city, but when you actually get there, I remember Jockey, the first time I met him, showed me, trying to sell me the dream at Cardiff, showing me the side of the British and Irish Lions, the Welsh captains, the history the club's got, and it lives like that. And I think now, we sit in the clubhouse as a bunch of boys having a coffee in between training, and you just look around that cigar house in there having a beer or coffee on a random Wednesday. You can't. No club in the world, I don't think at the moment really has that, and that's something that we massively draw on. We never forget now. I think I was at a club that had that and sort of tried to forget it, but as long as I'm at Cardiff, I'll never let that sort of drift away from the club, because it's so important, the identity.
Yeah, something that needs to be protected. So back to your career, we've established that you've had to be pretty resilient in your career. You finally got an England cap in 2021. What was that like?
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Again, like you said, from the place that I started rugby, I mean, I've played rugby with people that from the age of 14 were destined to play for England. So they've been on a pathway, and they knew that time was going to come. For me, even when I was playing at Bath every week, I never really thought that door was open. I snuck into a training camp before they went to South Africa in 2018. But it was one of those squads that they announced while everyone's playing in the semi-final and final. And I trained well for 2 weeks under Eddie, and just to go away, I went back down to the Championship with Irish that year, and then went to Bath, and I did pretty well for my good first 2 years at Bath, and just chugged away, did my job, nothing flash. But got to around sort of the April of that 21 season, I started to get a few sort of nudges in the right direction that I might have, and I was like, surely not. Like I was 31, like there must be, like at that age I was the realist thinking, they surely just have a look at a 19-year-old or a 20-year-old, like let's just throw him in rather than, like we're 2 years out from a World Cup, like let's, rather than a 31-year-old. Didn't make the initial squad, but then got called in and was like, well, I'll go in and train my hardest, and that year was probably the hardest 4 weeks of my training I've ever trained. It was Eddie. We were playing USA and Canada the year when all the second rows were the Lions. That's probably what I was in. But it was like I think Eddie wanted to test, like it was Marcus Smith's first year, George Furback's first year, like a lot of the new crop, this New England. I think Eddie, and he just tested the lads. Like loads of lads broke, loads of lads got injured. When I came out that 4 weeks, I got one cap out of it, got injured, dislocated my shoulder in the process, and was like, I'm not sure this is worth it. Like it's absolutely insane. Like how hard that was, how hard that trained. I think a lot of the England boys still talk about it now as the most turbo 4 weeks they've ever had. But yeah, to come out and get a cap like was something that I never thought I'd be able to do. It sort of cemented me as something that I wasn't just like, I always had that from where I come from as like, I'm all right, a bit of a like imposter. But yeah, to get a cap in any circumstance, like I was just over the moon to sort of just go like, right, I've done that, like I'm happy and I'll crack on with the rest of my career.
We had a question on X from Sean Wall who says, obviously a couple of years ago now, that England cap, do you have any Welsh grannies and would you consider a switch?
No, Jockey's been asking me that for the last 2 years. No, I haven't. No, no, and I don't think like even if I did, like you've got to start. That is completely off the table. Like if you were anyone, a few people joke with me about that and stuff, but it's no, you like. Firstly, the second rows they've got a class, and like if there was a crisis, you'd have to look. You have to go younger rather than go to me. Like I think like that's it. Romantic, but I think like Wales is in a bad place as it is. I think me coming cross nation to play for Wales has probably pushed that even further down. I think.
Obviously, we would prefer not because we want you available for like Zebra.
I mean, you're already
well.
playing as many minutes as possible at the moment, so you've got enough commitments.
Yeah.
You mentioned about talking to the RAF about the switch to Cardiff and talking to Jockey. From your perspective, though, when does it come onto your radar? And was this something you'd ever like considered before leaving England, playing somewhere else?
No, I think I was all when. If I'm like perfectly honest, like I wanted to stay at Bath. Like I wanted to finish my career at Bath. I think Bath is a home for us now for me, Sarah, and the kids. Like I think we'll stay here for well, the kids are in school now, and it's a great place to live. I wanted maybe another year out of Bath, and then I probably would have happily knocked it on the head and walked off into the sunset. But I was had a terrible year of injuries and. Like rugby's rugby, and there wasn't an opportunity for me to stay, and I was like, do I want to keep going? And I think you get to this time of your career. I was 34 at the time, and you're like, well, what am I playing for now? Am I playing to prove that I can still do it, which was a huge part of why I wanted to have another crack at it. But am I going to move my family across the world or to the other side of the UK just to prove that I can play for another year and disrupt the family? So we had a few nibbles from different places, and would have been a move, would have been international. Like there was a few options, but I think I'd always thought of like where is commutable from Bath, like, and Bristol wasn't really an option for me. I didn't really want to go there. Like that was never on the cards. But you start doing a radius, and then I just had a phone call from my agent and was like, oh, like Cardiff have had an interest. Is that something that you'd be interested in? And I was like, I hadn't really thought about it. Like it seemed across the bridge, I was like, do you still have to pay to get to Cardiff, like on the bridge? And I was like, well, like I'll go meet them. I'll go meet Jockey when I met Jockey, and he sold me exactly why like I wanted to carry on. He sold me a young squad, a historic club in the city, good fans, a club that needed a transition and a move in the right direction, needed a bit of help in how to sort of be a good operating environment. And it was like music to my ears. I was like yes, but like, can I start now? Was sort of like what I wanted to do, and quite quickly came to an agreement. I said, look, I'll come for a year and help and see what I can do. And yeah, like I've said in media, I absolutely loved it. Like that last year was probably one of my favourite years in playing. Played every week, helped lads, helped like coaches helped me, and it just felt like everyone was like what I was giving to the club, I was getting back from the club in terms of like the enjoyment, in terms of playing, and yeah, it's something that it's quite funny when I give this talk around like my whole life around never closing yourself off to opportunities and always saying yes, or at least having conversations about things. And to think of 2 years ago, like middle of my way through my last year at Bath, and someone was like, would you be interested in Cardiff? Like that was a complete curveball, and it's been probably the best 18 months I've had in my rugby career. Like, I've absolutely loved it. So yeah, it's been a complete breath of fresh air for me and a proper highlight of my career, really.
So, looking across the Cardiff, obviously the season you signed just before you start 23-24, just before you start playing, a team that seemed to have a lot of positivity around it, but very few wins to show. So what were your first impressions when you think looking at the club, its record and the environment?
When I arrived? Yeah, so I played for the thing that properly sold it for me was all this. What Jockey told me was like and I was like, oh, like they're not. Have they been getting a few wins? And there's a lot of guys leaving, and Bath played Cardiff in the Champions Cup around January, and I played in that game, and Arms Park was like rocking. Like it was Saturday night, I think, in town. We walked through town, and that was sort of. I was like, look, I think there is something like here. Like it was very similar. It had a very similar feel to Bath. And then with all this stuff that Jockey was telling me, I was like, look, it's not going to be pretty. Like, but this is. I feel like I've got a blueprint of how to get out of this, of get where Cardiff had been. I'd been at the club where Bath had not won a game. We finished bottom all year, and then we got to a Premiership final within 2 years. Like I'm not saying we're going to do that, but I was going into Jockey basically from day one, being like, look, we can have a look at this, have a look at this. Like I knew it wasn't going to be a quick fix, but that was what I didn't really care about how many games we won or how successful we were. I was just like, I just see there's a way forward for the club and a way forward for the players at the club. And that's sort of been my philosophy since then. The success this year of being 4 from 5 isn't from us just going, we're going to win games. It was from, we've changed the training methods, we've changed the environment a little bit, and the wins have come from that. It's not been from us targeting wins or targeting how we're going to play. It's like it's been a sort of from the success of the environment, really.
On the pod, we in the week before every game, we pick the team or try to predict the team, and we've sort of given up trying to predict who's going to play in the second row because it's obviously going to be you and Teddy. Do you, when he's fit, obviously, do you mind playing every week? I mean,
I'd love to. Yeah, I think, yeah.
Or is it more than you expected?
Definitely more than I expected. Even when I first had that conversation with Jockey, it was play where we can and help the environment. That was sort of I thought I was going to be in the background a little bit, sort of play where I can and help where I can, but more to offer experience. But if I'm honest, after I enjoy playing. I think I struggle when I don't play. Like as an example, like this last 3 weeks has been tough. Like I can train. I'll train every day as best as I can. I get managed here and there, but training, like the mental load of like not playing sort of training with no game at the end of it, not thinking of a line-out menu or thinking of how we're attacking or defending. Like it's tough. So the playing element, I think, is what's kept me going and what's kept it so enjoyable for me. And being able to learn from that and help the boys in games and stuff. That's I get annoyed now if I'm not playing, or if they want to rest me. Like if you want to give me a rest, like I'll not train all week. Like that's how I see it. So yeah, I'll play as many games as they want me to play and helping. And like this stretch of 5 games was tough around that. I think we played Saturday night and then went into Friday night against Dragons. Like that's 6. It's not even a 6-day turnaround. It's a 5-day turnaround. Really, like that was a tough turnaround. But yeah, like body feels good and I'm enjoying playing really.
What are some of the things that you noticed around the place that needed like tweaking environment wise? You mentioned that you come in and spoke to Jockey about things. What is there something that sticks out that has like made like noticeable progress with this young group that you joined?
Yeah, I think we've tried to create a bit of an identity around like how we want to play in not in just of if you were to ask someone who watches Cardiff like what's our identity, I think people would be like, oh well, we throw the ball around a bit and we play free open rugby, like exciting rugby. But I think if I'd have asked a lot of the players what that was on day one, I think they would have given that sort of answer, but not much behind it. And I think what we've worked really hard on the last 18 months is like actually breaking that down of like, well, what do we actually, how do we get that brand of rugby? How do we get that in defence? So I'll give you an example. Like last year, we wanted to play with the ball. We wanted kicks to go up in the air, get transition, and we play with broken field, and we score like try of the season every year or whatever. Like that's the blueprint. But in defence, for example, was like if we didn't have the ball, we didn't know how to get it back. So we would just defend heroically, and you'd see these mental stats in most weeks where Al Lawrence had made 28 tackles or something, and you're like, well, like that seems great, but like we're not getting the ball back. So Gethin's like gone away and had a great tour with and developed over in Japan, and like come back and been like, right, well, let's not be this heroic defense of making multiple tackles. Let's see how quick we can get the ball back and be excited when we get the ball. So I think that's been the biggest growth of us over the last 18 months is breaking the fundamentals down of the game and going like, yeah, we want to be this exciting brand of rugby to watch, but like, what does that mean in all facets of the game? Like, we need a set piece to function to give us the ball. We need a line out to work. We need a defence that gets to the ball, a kick strategy that gets us the ball back or gets balls on the floor, contests in the air. Like, do you understand what I mean? Like, I think breaking all that down and working on those little bits has really unlocked, I think, a lot of players' understanding of like how we want to play and how we go and attack games and not worrying too much, because the emotional side of the Welsh rugby community is always there. Like, it shocks me actually, even still now, that like guys will go out and want to die on the rugby pitch. Like that is like they will do that week in, week out for you. Like your Alex Manns, Belchers, like even Al Laurent, like these guys will go out and put their head in horrible places for 80 minutes, week in, week out, emotionally, like for the club. And I'm not saying I don't do that, but I think now we've just unlocked like a bit of like a technical of like, well, how do we do this? How do we want to play to get games over the line? And when that emotion does dry up a bit in games, like what do we go back to make sure we still get performances out there? So I think that's been a huge growth of us, a huge growth of the younger boys and the leaders in the club to be able to identify that. And that's not, so I'm rambling a bit now, but like that's not from me as such. Like if you look at the signings Jockey made the year I came in, the signings of myself, Sheedy came from Bristol, Dan Thomas came from Bristol, Ali came from Saris, Geno has been everywhere. I'm missing someone. Ed from Leinster. Like, I think sometimes, especially in Cardiff over the last few years, is that like everyone's from Wales, everyone's been at Cardiff, and then we brought in last year a bit of a new knowledge and new understanding of how different environments work, how different things. So just having a bit of a, not wholesale change, but just different people in the environment that bring something different from what is in Wales has helped massively and helped us grow hugely.
So someone who we've already sort of briefly mentioned on the pod, your usual lock partner and Teddy Williams. What's it been like playing with the sort of young and up and coming second row, and how's that?
Yeah, he's been great. I've loved working with him. I think he finds rugby quite easy. I think he's still so raw. I think his potential. I think he's going to be a huge part of Cardiff and Wales for a long time. He's knows the game very well, and I think it's now he's starting to understand his knowledge of the game and how he can implement that into our strategy, into our game plan, how we run our set piece, how we run attack. He's a very, very skillful, very, very gifted rugby player, and I think now he's starting to understand like how to use his head a bit more and how to lead on the pitch and how to break games down. And he's been great to work with. I think, and as an example of where our relationship is now is like his foot's on the mend. He's back in the environment. He's training. He's rehabbing, but he's on to me now around like what can I be doing? What can I do to help my leadership? What can I do like psychological stuff, which probably is quite. I've just said to him like you don't understand how many people will be happily to just pick the phone up with you. Like it's not a don't be you. It's good to be vulnerable about these things. You could pick the phone up to anyone in Wales. They'll take a phone call with you. Anything you want to know, anything you want to develop. And I think he's someone who is just hungry to learn and get better. And I'm extremely excited to see him come back because he was playing some unbelievable rugby. Like the first part of those first couple of games he played, I was so excited to see him coming off the back of the summer tour and going into this campaign. I was extremely like gutted for him to see his foot pointing the other way, but he handled it pretty well when he just hopped off the pitch, didn't he?
Yeah, it was a bit. I'll be honest, a bit of a hero moment because I dislocated my knee in a club once, and I was nowhere near as graceful getting out of that place.
I saw him hop off the pitch, and I was like, I didn't really know where he'd gone, and I looked over, and I think he was just like lying on his side. And I thought he was just getting his ankle strapped. I thought he just rolled his ankle. And then I was like, the ref asked like, what's going on? I was like, he's just getting his ankle, and turned around and he's like sucking on the pen, like the anesthetic pen. And I was like, yeah, he's not coming back. But it was quite an innocuous one. Like he did a pretty good job of it, but he's had a great surgery and yeah, he's back rehabbing already.
Yeah, a few people have commented on how brave that was. Yeah, very impressive. You mentioned Jockey and how crucial he's been. What was it like dealing with him leaving just on the eve of the season? And I suppose linked to that, what's it been like with Cornel coming in as head coach?
Yeah, Jockey's been great. I think to probably get back to it, I think from the Six Nations where he went in, I think we all knew it was sort of coming. So what did he go? He went in as interim after Gats left, and he comes back and we have a good end to the season. It's all great, and then he brings me. He's like, they've asked me to do the summer tour, and I was like, look, I think like you've got to do it. Like it's a great opportunity, but like just be careful. Like don't get burnt out. It's a big commitment. And then I think soon you start hearing like they want someone else in, and then like it was only a matter of time. I think like obviously it comes out that he's gone the week of the Lions game, but like we all knew, like we were pretty much like from the start of pre-season we were thinking it's like when, not if. So I think it was more how we wanted to get as much out of him from his attack stuff and his the things he brought in, and to credit to him, like this is a proper like fair play to him. Like he was, I think he wanted the job. I think he like must have been interviewing for the job, was probably prepping for the job, but through that whole pre-season, like, he didn't waver a day. Like, he was there. Like, he implemented a few more things on kick strategy. He changed our attack shape a bit. It was all around like the environment of the club. He was pushing for signings. It was like he was putting Cardiff first up until the day he told us in the meeting that he was going to take the Wales job. So he lay a lot of the foundations of what, like, you're seeing now, a lot of the stuff that you're seeing week in, week out, how, like, our huddles work now, how we talk to each other, our attack, and the coaches have done a really good job now of stepping up and just making sure that they embody what he put in place, because we're not living Jockey's sort of structure and strategy. It's like Jockey created a Cardiff way, and I think now we're just living off that Cardiff way, and and the coaches now want to live by that as well. So yeah, he did an unbelievable job in leaving the club in a better place from where he took over. I mean, like, the stories of when he took over, and there was about 8 people training in pre-season, and he had to build a squad, and I mean, he was like playing 18, 19-year-olds all season. Like, to put the club where it is now is like, you can't share that responsibility much more than 100% to Jockey, really. So, and I think he's going to be a fantastic coach wherever he is now, and especially at international level. And I think Corneil's done a great job as well. Stepped up, big shoes to fill in terms of attack, and like, we're an attacking team and we want to play with the ball in hand. And obviously Corneil's very detail driven, very set piece driven, knows rugby very, very well, and is a great student of the game. But yeah, he's done an amazing job to empower the other coaches around him to step up. I think Gethin Jenkins has been fantastic this year, really grown. Scott Andrews has stepped up massively and taken on more of a role with the forwards and more around the forwards attack, and Johnny Goodridge has been fantastic as well. And I think it's just a great blend of good people that just want the best for the club, and a few senior players helping here and there. But yeah, we're just all fighting to go in the same direction. We're all pretty aligned on what we want, and it's a great place to be.
With Corneil, it's a bit of a techie question. Feel free to get a bit techie response. But I think us on the pod last year, I mean, we were nominating him for like signing of the season, because I think for a long time at Cardiff we felt that our, like, line out and more was quite weak, and that suddenly then over the last 12 months it's now at the point where it's not even just solid, it's like a genuine weapon at the club. What sort of things has he brought in, and where does he rank as a forwards coach around that set piece for you?
Yeah, he's been great. I think he's very, very detail driven. I think something that I think a lot of the boys hadn't had a lot of exposure to. So I think the amount of detail he put around a maul, and not just necessarily a group of 8 people pushing in one direction. It was what do your lifters do? What does your jumper do? What does the ripper do? What does the next 2 people in do? How does the hooker get the ball off the rip? Like, this is all stuff that was just layered on. And like you said, now we want to go to the corner and try and score points. Like, he's a very, very detail driven coach, very South African. A lot of the South African coaches I've had are very detail driven. Know your job, know your role, do your job, do it well, and you'll be fine. So he's been great in doing that. I think I've got a great relationship with him. I get a lot from him. I hope he gets a lot from me. I think we have great conversations around growth and of our own individual stuff. But I think he's really, really good with the younger players as well, like giving younger players sort of the freedom, but the confidence to be themselves and add their value to the squad. And I think you've nailed it. I think our set piece now is a genuine weapon. I think when I first arrived at the club, it was let's hope to get the ball back. But now I think, like, our scrum against Edinburgh, like, was fantastic. We're now our maul could probably get a bit more out, but I think attacking mauls in general is quite a hard thing to do at the moment. I think a lot of teams are defending it well. I think it's just it's a general hard part of the game, but like our maul defense is very good, and it's showing in games when it matters.
Sort of going back to this first block of 5 games we've had. So Cardiff been winning slightly different to how we were expecting. There's been games where we've blown teams out of the water with attack, and other games where we've ground out the win. Has that been part of the overall development, or is it just a case of win by however we need to?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's more like we've got ideas of how we want to play and how we work our way through games, and it's not a case of as an example, like if we're down at half time, like we're not coming in being like we've got to win, we need to like change how we play, or it's usually we're down because we're not doing what we're meant to be doing. And a lot of the things we talk about is, are we doing what we said we're going to do? Like, well, yes, okay. Is it working? No, then we might have to change. But a lot of the times, if we're not winning, it's we've got to do what we get back to what we're meant to be doing. I don't know. It's tough. Like this, we're obviously sat 4 from 5. We could easily be 2 from 5. Like it's so we're sat here pretty confident. We're sat here pretty happy. Like it could have been 2 from 5. We could have snuck a win away at Munster right at the end. But look, I think we're happy of where we are. But I think more we're just happy that we're growing week on week with the performances. It sounds easy cliche for me to just say that. Everyone says that as a bit of a media answer, but that's ultimately what we hold our hands out. We're like, are we enjoying ourselves, and are we growing as a group? And at the moment we are, and we're genuinely excited to get back into this next block because we just want to challenge ourselves every weekend against opposition to see where we're at, really.
I think you're on mute, Steve.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, as you say, we're on the field. We're onto a bit of a good thing at the moment. Results. It appears to be a happy group. But do you have any insights into what the off-field situation in Welsh rugby and how that's impacting on the players?
I've got insight. Yeah, I've been heavily involved with the Cardiff consultation, with the WRPA the consultation. So I've had my hand in that pretty much from the start. It's been an interesting 6 months. Like it's been a very it's been pretty difficult. I think ultimately, like we all knew change needs to happen. I think we understand that. We understand that the domestic game in Wales isn't performing at the level that we want it to be, and the national team is suffering because of that. I'm always conscious that I'm an Englishman talking about this, but I think from a Cardiff point of view, I think the Cardiff narrative from the start was that we just wanted to keep Cardiff rugby in Cardiff. Like the identity piece I talked to you about at the start around the history of the club and it being in the centre of the city was going into those and arguing our case against the WRU wasn't necessarily around how many clubs we wanted or how many regions they wanted to be. It was like we just, whatever happens, we want to keep Cardiff in Cardiff with that identity. And then I think from the other sort of consultations, from the WRPA one, from the players' point of view, was quite an emotional one to start with. But I think when we actually sat down and talked around as a sort of player group and what we think we want, like we were never going to get 160 players in Wales to agree on a 2, 3, or 4 model sort of restructure. You're never going to get other players to vote for potentially the demise of a club. So I think we went pretty hard after the pathway. I think the pathway and the development of players in Wales has been lacking for a long time now. We're losing players over the bridge to England and to the pathway in England. And we sort of said if we can get that pathway right, then in 10 years, 15 years time, there's going to be a complete flourish of players that could fill easily 3 to 4 teams in Wales. And you're going to have a flourish of teams. Don't cut down to 2 teams. And because if you get the pathway right in a few years, you're going to have not enough space for players to come out of the pathway. So that was sort of how those two consultations went as an overview. And I'm hoping, like, from the outset, it seems like they've listened. I think, like, we sat there and I know the headline is they're going to go to 3 teams, but if you look behind that headline, the amount of money they're going to invest now in the pathway, the restructure of that, and try and keep talent in Wales, I think it is a bit of a win for the players to get that through and get them to change their mind and listen. So I don't know how it's going to pan out now. Like the last meeting.
Oh, we just lost your audio there, Josh. Sorry.
Sorry, you got us?
Yeah, that's back now. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. Sorry, to go back. Yeah. So for them, how we get out of this next stage, I'm not sure. Obviously, they've laid out what they want to get out of it, but they say now that they're going to go through this process to get to a consensual agreement where we're going to find our way to 3 clubs naturally. But yeah, I don't know. It's so hard to stay on. Sorry, so hard to stay up to date with it all. I think it's quite difficult to pick out of the media what's actually true, pick out from the statements what they're actually trying to say. So look, it's happening way above my pay grade. I feel like I've given as much as I can give from a WRPA perspective and a Cardiff sort of player representative, like to make my sort of case heard of what I think would be the best way forward. But we'll have to wait and see what happens now over probably. Look, I hope it gets resolved sooner rather than later. I'd rather them come out now and make a decision who's going to go, who's going to stay, just so we can sort of get on with our lives now. That might be quite a naive thing for me to say, but I think everyone's sort of on hold, waiting for the inevitable. I'd quite like to not see this go on for another 18 months and we start losing talent away from Wales because of the uncertainty. And ultimately, all players want to know is who they're playing for, where they're playing, and how much they're getting paid to do it. So if we can get that clearer for the players as quick as possible, then I think we can move out of it. There'll be turbulence, but I think we can move out of it quicker and get going in Welsh rugby again.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a supporter's perspective as well, I think it's horrible being dangled.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, obviously we're coming from a different perspective because obviously this is your job.
Yeah.
These are your mortgages. For us, it's more of the emotional connection, but it comes out of the same thing. You don't want to be dangled, have it dangled for months and have that uncertainty go on. But I mean, what's it like day to day working with the players? I mean, is it something that when you're in training, is you conscious of it hanging over your heads, or are you able to just put it aside? Or
yeah, I think the first block, I think we kept the players up to date with how the consultations were going. I think there wasn't much information coming back, but all we could do was let them know that this is the fight we were fighting. And I think because the WRU put sort of the end of October, November deadline, it was easy for us to just say, like, right, let's just focus on this 5 games. That gets us to the autumn break, and then we can reassess. My frustration is that we sort of got there and then we didn't get there. It was sort of like we got to the end of that block and we sort of waited around a bit, and then we did hear the announcement, but then we're now still sort of none the wiser. But I think this is obviously the tough part of the year because players are now want like some sort of contract negotiations. Players want some sort of certainty of what next year looks like, and we want to sort of be able to give that. Like, it's very difficult to get players up for games and get players focused on games when they don't know where they're going to be in 6 months and what their sort of conversations around that. I think it sounds like the narrative is now that there will be 4 teams next season, and that the WRU has sort of given the green light to start making sure there will be 4 squads next season. So I think the ball is starting to roll a bit now in those conversations with agents and players, but yeah, there's still so much uncertainty that it's hard to keep those guys going, because for us, for me personally, our squad is only as good as the guys that aren't playing every week. And at the moment, keeping those guys energized and training, making sure we train as hard as we can against the guys that aren't playing. They're putting their best foot forward. They're growing. There's competition. It was great in that 5 weeks. We trained hard. We had competitive training. I felt like it put us in a really good place. Now, if those guys continue to not play and continue to not get much conversation out of contracts, it's quite hard to keep those guys motivated to get through this next block. So I think that's a big challenge that I spoke to Cornel around and the club, and I think he used the word certainty and uncertainty, and I think he's basically now trying to have conversations with everyone to make sure everyone has as much clarity as they can to make sure we hit next week against Zebra as hard as we can.
Ben on social media asks, considering everything going on, how proud are you of the boys for doing what needs to be done on the pitch and getting the wins in that first block?
Yeah, massive. Yeah, I'm hugely proud. I think proud of the way we're playing. I think I'm more proud of the squad, the environment. I think the staff. I mean, our staff are unbelievable. They turn up, they bring energy. And then the guys, like I just said then, your squad is as good as the guys that aren't playing. If they aren't turning up and making sure you train as hard as a week and make sure it's a really competitive week, then you might as well not be even try and compete on the weekend. So I think it's the 23 getting the plaudits of this last 5 weeks, but I think there's a lot going on behind the scenes from the guys not playing, the young senior academy boys that have stepped up this year and done really well and trained with us all week, play for RFC on the weekend. They've all been fantastic, and it just shows how good this group is and how good the environment is of how the results have been going. I think I generally enjoy going to work. I enjoy getting in the car and driving an hour to go to work every day. So it's great.
Just from you personally being involved in that as well, is that sort of the natural leader within you to get involved in that off-field stuff? Because I don't think from the outside any of us would begrudge you sort of saying, I'm towards the end of my career, I'm English, this isn't going to really impact me massively. Yeah. I'll just sit back and let these guys figure it out for themselves.
I think like I said from the start, when I came to Cardiff, I sort of had to bite my tongue a bit. I think there was I could see a little bit of a change there, a bit of a change here. Could we do this a bit different? And I think I really enjoyed that process of drip feeding that in, not trying to be the guy coming in you lot don't know what you're talking about, do it my way. And I think I grew massively last year as a person. I grew as a leader last year as how I sort of got that across. And I think it naturally, I felt like it was my responsibility to sort of have a voice for the club. We've got some great leaders. We've got some great people that know a lot about Welsh rugby, but I just felt like I wanted to offer my opinion, offer a voice, and ultimately at this stage of my career, I don't mind challenging. I don't mind, not saying upsetting people, but I don't mind challenging people that aren't going to affect my career for the rest of my life. And I think some people are do they want to do that and start chewing down the performance director of the WRU when they're 23 and want an international career? So I think I've always been interested in how environments work, how structures work, how cultures work. And as soon as this started coming up around a restructure and how the future of Welsh rugby was going to look, I put my hand up and just said, look, I'd love to be a voice. I'd love to offer an opinion. And it's something that I've done. And you mentioned the relationship with Teddy. Teddy has come along for the ride as well. So he's been helping me with that. And someone who's come through that pathway, has come through Cardiff as a young boy and come through the Welsh system. It's been a really good sounding board for me to understand how that system works, and I've offered a bit of experience, and we've sort of tackled that whole journey together, really.
Steve, I'm not sure you unmuted. Are you going to come in there?
Oh, I thought it was Harley's turn to come in. So I mean, big fixture block coming up, as you said. Are you looking forward to those games, and what do you think we can achieve this season?
What can we achieve? I think we're very excited by this block. This Zebra game's a little bit of a sticky one because of the South Africa fixture, but we're genuinely excited. I think this this 4-week block, we didn't really in England. We didn't have these breaks. It's been they're tough. They're tough to get your head around. They're tough to get through. We've trained really hard. We've had a little mini pre-season. We've pushed each other hard. We sort of looked at how hard we trained in pre-season and what that got us, and we doubled down. We went hard again this last 3 weeks, and we've trained hard, and I think there's some real excitement around the group around what we can do. We got Zebra away, 2 European games, 2 really exciting European games, and going away to Paris, and then also coming to us, and then we're into the Christmas derby. So there's 6 huge games there to sort of lick your lips around and get after. It's a big 9-game block, but I think we're going to start looking at it in sort of little chunks and work our way through it. The energy of the international boys coming back will be huge for us, and then it's just basically about getting through this block healthy, sort of excited, and seeing where we can go.
I think it'll be your first home Boxing Day game when the Dragons come to us on Boxing Day. Has there been any chat about what's that like? Because it's that game you played for Bath at Cardiff, that was bouncing at the Arms Park, but Boxing Day can be a level above that.
Yeah, I honestly, every home game now, I get very, very, very excited about. I love a 3 o'clocker. I just don't think they exist anymore. I love get home games. I love the crowd there. I think the atmosphere builds every single time, and then like you said, these big games, these home games around Christmas or the derbies, or when a big opposition comes to town. I'm still holding Munster from last year in my head as my favourite Arms Park game. It was incredible. So every time I go to Arms Park, I'm expecting something similar, and I very rarely get disappointed. So I'm excited to get back there. The Ulster game will be a big one. I think we can genuinely do something in Europe. I can see us going into knockouts, and I'm very, very excited to sort of get that for the home fans as well.
You sort of mentioned during your time in the English Premiership, you didn't really have breaks during the international windows, which the clubs tend to now with the smaller league.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that a lot of them are organising more friendlies. Is that something you think you and the guys at the club would be willing to do more on the thing, or are a lot of boys quite happy to have these rest windows?
No, I think there's a definite. So I think how it's happened in England, I think from my memory, we never used to have we'd have the autumn internationals, but we'd play alongside them. And I think the owners started getting a bit annoyed that they didn't see their international players that often. So I think they started making a bit of a change and bringing the Prem Cup into that window, or having a break around internationals, and then we went through a bit of a sticky patch in England where teams would just have different strategies around their rest and refresh and getting fired up again for games. So then you'd see a fully loaded Gloucester team play against a Quins 18s team in the Prem Cup, and it got a bit lost its way. So I think now you're seeing Prem Cup sides respect the tournament and play sort of your younger fringe players and having a good knockout in that, and then and then organising friendlies along the side. So I think Scarlets are playing Quins this weekend, and like we're actually going to Bath on Friday to train against Bath. So I think 4 weeks is just about long enough to have a rest, but I think we need a bit of energy and a bit to train against someone else. I don't think we need the collision and the knocks, but 4 weeks is a long time to not play a fixture, and I think you could see more friendlies like that happening. Now, like the only problem we've got is that like if you offered us a friendly now, I don't think we'd want to take it, because we can just about get 25 players to a match next week. So do we want to risk that playing a non-competitive game in terms of like league or cup? So it's tough in Wales because we've got 10 lads away at the moment. So it's it'd be an interesting one to see how we start navigating that.
Sounds like a lie-in for you on Friday.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I'm
not sure the boys in the West will feel though. They've got to come a long, long way.
Yeah, as somebody who moved from Cardiff to Leslie, they've already got themselves to blame. You've obviously mentioned there about the difference in the league setups coming across to the URC from the Prem. I expect the travelling is a big point of difference, but just generally, have you found any sort of playing style differences in the league?
I don't know. I think the playing styles are a lot different. I think week to week you get quite a different style of rugby. I've really enjoyed it because it's something different. I think you play each team once, and in the Premiership you play them twice, and you throw a bit of a Prem Cup in there as well, and then you end up playing. You feel like you just play the same teams all the time. You're just like, oh, we've got them again. Have we got them again? And the URC has been really refreshing because last year I hadn't really played that much against a lot of the teams, so I felt like when I was at Bath, if I was playing against Exeter, I knew how they played, and you didn't have to do too much work. You could just sort of roll into that game, and you knew how they were going to play. But I quite enjoyed last year of like reviewing teams and working out how they play, and doing my homework again on sort of new opposition. But it's a really, really good league. I think I've enjoyed it. The travel, I'd say my wife doesn't really enjoy it, but it's quite a nice way of like keeping the squad together. We get away together a lot, spend time together, and go to some pretty cool places. So I think there's still some growth in it. I think the URC needs something. I mean, how like when a South African team comes to town, how do you drum up support around that and get ticket? I think there needs to be a bit more. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the answer. Like you look at the Premiership now, you can pretty much draw a history and a derby or a bit of rivalry to all the fixtures. I think in the URC that's still lacking. I know it's a new competition, but like when the Lions come to Cardiff on a Saturday night, like how do you drum up the excitement around that? Like it's obviously going to be a physical, tough game, and we've got our job to do. But commercially and for fans, how do you drum up all that support? So it's a good league, a good contest, a good competitive league, but I think it's still like quite junior and needs a bit of work.
You mentioned Alex Mann a little bit earlier. I was going to ask what it's like to play with him, because I kind of noticed there's been a couple of games where you've been like actually literally dragging him away from trouble.
Yeah.
But I suppose, earlier you mentioned about the passion or the hoil that Welsh players bring to the game, and they're willing to put their bodies in places where they might be quite likely get hurt. I mean, is there a big difference between a typical Welsh rugby player and English rugby player? Is there a difference there? I mean, I'm sure there are English rugby players that also put
there is.
Hurt, but I mean, is there like a cultural difference you notice?
No, there is. I think in Wales there's a huge identity around playing from where you're from. I think playing for like who you grew up with and who you represent. There's not many examples in England of guys that have homegrown and come through that club, and you see like, I mean, the only example, like the most famous one is like Dunny at Bath, like the guy that's like would die at the Rec playing for Bath, like. And there's some young homegrown players that are going to become legends, like coming through now. But I feel like there's the way the sort of regions are, I suppose, in that like all these little areas feed into one, and I think that's the difference. I think you mentioned Manny. I think the way he approaches games, and I think he just has that gnarliness to him. I think he has that sort of dog in him that he just wants to do well for the people around him, do well for himself, and he just puts his body on the line every single time. Like I remember the first like 3 games I played with him, I think he was like throwing up at like 55 minutes because he just puts himself in like a hole that not many people would be willing to go to. You see the performance he's put on the pitch for Wales in the last 2 games, like the guy like doesn't stop. Like he's incredible, and he like crosses the line like occasionally, like you said, like got to drag him out of a few situations, but like I'd rather be dragging him out of situations than getting him to tone it down, because like he's a huge sort of talismanic player for us, really. Like when he's out there running around, like I know like other teams are analysing him and making sure like to try and deal with him because he's such a nuisance in all aspects of the game, really.
So going a bit more towards your own game. So what's, if you were to nail him mass, say this is Josh McNally's game. Is it more about the physicality, technical line network? What's the sort of thing you pride yourself in first and foremost?
It's something it's probably something that I've like racked my brain about for years. I think I always tried to fit a hole that probably wasn't me, and I think some of my best rugby was when I was just sort of the best years I've had at rugby was where I was sort of winning gain line collisions in between the 15s is how I sort of see it. I think my carrying probably isn't where it was, but now I've sort of found my place in the team here at Cardiff where I slow a lot of ball down. I get into a lot of rucks, into a lot of contests in the contact area, and I feel like it's a job that's suiting the team, really. I pride myself on set piece a lot. Like that's something that I work hard at, and I analyse quite hard a lot every week, and how I can stop and gain advantages in that. But yeah, I think where I've sort of found my place at Cardiff is sort of in and around that contact area and making sure we try and get the ball back. I think you might not see it a lot. I mean, it's not necessarily turnovers, but it's just slowing ball down that allows us to go and get off the line the next phase. So it's something that I've like asked myself all the time. I don't really know. Like you look at ball, like your best ball carriers, your best tacklers, your best jacklers. Like never one to like try and say I'm this or that, but I'm just a guy that works as hard as I can for the team and does a job for the team that I try and make myself invaluable, really.
Yeah, I think we have all noticed the work you're putting in and putting your leg in positions where it's going to be really awkward for the other team. Yeah, it hasn't gone unnoticed. I've always said second row is the most important position in a rugby team. I was just wondering if there's any message you give to any young second rows who might be listening to this.
I don't know, really. I think like the interesting thing with second row is that I think they almost like to try to kill second rows off about 5-7 years ago. I think like we always lost like your 6'7", like 4 lock, I suppose, like your bigger lock. They thought they could replace it almost with like a back rower that was a bit quicker and a bit. You could fit a back rower into the second row. Whereas like I remember when I was playing at Irish, like we had almost 3 second rows on the pitch because you put a second row at 6. Like that was the model of your back 5. But I don't know. I think like for me, I think a lot of people in my time have gone the wrong way because people have just tried to make them massive. They've just tried to put weight on them, and I think people get trapped on that. I think I'm naturally this side. I've not worked this hard to get this side. I train hard, but it's not like I'm eating over and over and the amounts to like stay this big. Like I've always been quite a big guy, and I've seen a lot of players get littered with injuries and plagued with injuries because they've carried more weight than they need to, trying to think they have to be something they're not. So if you are a second row and even a back row now, I think is try and work out what you're good at, what you feel like your skill set is, and become better at that. Don't try and become something you're not. Like I've played with a lot of young second rows. Me and Teddy have this chat all the time around body weight and does it need to be bigger, or in a side no, like the job you're doing doesn't require you to be bigger. Like just Teddy's great ball in hand, going after kicks in the air. He's a great line up forward. Like putting another 10 kilos on him doesn't. It potentially hinders him doing that. So I think like having a skill set that you're comfortable with, that you can put out week on week, that's the sort of super strength you can have. Like not putting another 10 kilos on to become bigger. Like I think that's a myth now. Like you need to be of a size, but not like they're just trying to make someone 120 kilos because it sounds good in a program. Like isn't the way forward, I think.
Good stuff. I've got a couple of like quick fire-ish ones off social media, so feel free to expand a little bit on if any names come to you. Ben, first of all, who do you think is the most underrated player in the Cardiff squad at the moment?
In the underrated player, I don't. Well, it's Al Lawrence, but I don't think he's underrated anymore. I think he's now starting to like people are starting to wise up to how good he is. Harry Millard, I think. Like I think he sometimes gets so overlooked in terms of what he does, and he is a huge miss if he's not in the team. Whether he's at 13, I think when Ray retired for like the 9th time, everyone thought it was going to be a huge hole. Like, I think there is a hole there. I think we need some depth there, but like, Harry's been great there at 13, fitted straight in. Like his defensive reads now are getting better and better. He's at the end of he's scoring tries. I mean, Harry played on the wing all last year and was, I think, the top try scorer, wasn't he? So like I think he genuinely is underrated because if people name their Cardiff team most weeks, they probably wouldn't have him at 13. They'd probably try and shoehorn someone else in. So for us, like he's invaluable. Like when he took a knock against Munster away, I think, and then didn't play Dragons, like that was a huge like oh no moment, because not that we couldn't fill it, but it was like we did everything we possibly can to try and get into that game. But like he's someone who's hugely under. I think he doesn't get enough plaudits for how good he is.
The question was who's a young player with a big future, and then with a caveat of you can't say Tom Bowen because we know all about him now.
He's here already. He doesn't need a future. He's doing it already. Who's got a huge future? Stefan Manuel is going to be something special. I think. Very grounded already. Like not getting too ahead of himself. Doing very well for RFC. Matty Young, I think, although he's a head case, I think like he's going to be a very, very, very good player. And then probably in the forwards, like Reece Barrett I think he's going to be a stalwart for Cardiff for a long, long time, like from the area, and did so well last year. Has been great this year as well, and we got some great competition now at Loosehead. Ed Burns nearly back fit. Corey's come back well and strong, and obviously Danny's doing really well and is away with Wales at the moment. So I think like around that Loosehead now, like there's some great talent, and Reece. I just love training with Reece every day. Like he turns up, he wants to scrap, he wants to compete, he wants to do as well as he can for himself and for others around him. And yeah, he's going to be one with a huge future.
Glenn asks, who's the biggest joker in the Cardiff changing room?
Corey Domachowski, definitely. I think. Yeah, I think in our changing room, there's like a little click in the corner that just it's comedy gold. Like you could just sit and watch him all day. It's like a corner of Corey, Roy Thornton, Azza, Josh Adams, Belcher, Ben Thomas like lingers in around it for a bit. Tane Basham's trying to lean his way in there, but yeah, it's comedy gold. Like it's just you could like I sit on the other side with a few other boys and we just sit there. It's just free entertainment for 30 minutes. It's an interesting group. They've all known each other for so long and just knowing to push each other's buttons. It's great.
Yeah, I feel like as soon as you start saying those names, I think everyone listening is just going tick, tick, tick. Yeah, I think it's pretty much everyone suspecting. Just more of a silly question. I don't particularly want to embarrass Corey any more than that video already did. But how did the squad react when that video of him stuck in the playground came out on
I'd never
socials?
seen it. I'd never seen it, and then someone mentioned it in passing as if like it was like everyone knows about it, and I was like, "What are you on about?" And someone showed me, and it's gold. It's absolute gold. He's class. He's so funny. Like got the shortest fuse there is as well. Like goes from joking to wants to kill you in 30 seconds. Well, less than that even. But yeah, he's funny. He gets me through some days, to be fair.
Final two, like quick fire-ish ones from Gareth. For you personally, who's the best player you've played with and the best player you've played against?
Toby, I think, like easily up there. Like he would still like coming here again. Like my days in Bath with him, and it's not even like I don't know. Like the times you've played with him, it's like it's not. I've been at the 2 clubs with him, and it's not like we've played 100 games with each other. It's just the way you can come and play. He's not played for 6 weeks, not played for 3 months, and just come on the pitch and look like he's just running around the park, getting man of the match and scoring tries. Like it's you say someone makes it look easy. That is the definition of that. But against, I want to say someone this year from last year. The only person. Oh, do you know who actually it is? This is a bit of a curveball, and he still haunts me now in con games. Is Johan Lloyd. That guy is like horrible to defend. One of the hardest to and Tom Bowen's got this now, and I've obviously not played against Tom Bowen, but he's also nearly retired me 3 times this week. Like when someone's small and can move laterally like those two can, it is horrifying to play against. Like when Johan signed at the club, we put a highlight reel up in the meeting of Johan stepping me in the scarlet. And it's just like he just haunts me. And I've played against him when I was at Bath, against when he was at Bristol. Like we've been playing conditioning games and silly games over the last few weeks, and just like those two moving around, like it's just like I'm running around thinking like I've got days left, not necessarily years left. So like I'd say someone around that, but like Johan Lloyd is like it's scary playing against him. It's good to have him on my team now, yeah.
I don't know if Harley or Steve have got anything else like that comes close to the end of our topics list.
I suppose the only thing to ask is, do you have a message for the fans for the next block of games and for the rest of the season?
I think like for me, I think sometimes when things like this happen, I think you can, especially with the uncertainty and the media attraction around it, I think sometimes the players can close themselves off away from it. I think we don't want to. I think if it ever comes across like that, it's not that we're doing it intentionally. I think we're just. I mean, we're not scared, but we just don't want to say the wrong thing or put the wrong message out for the sake of the club or for the sake of the group. So I think for us as players at the moment, we absolutely love playing at home. Like we love the fans. Like we love the support that come away with us as well. Like, I mean, even the fans that came down to like Rodney Parade, like that stuff doesn't go unnoticed to us, and we genuinely do talk about fans and how we engage with the fans in like the way we want to play. We want the fans to be involved in when we score tries and we have big defensive sets. Like we want, there is nothing better than being playing when the fans are behind you, and I think our fans are unbelievable at doing that. It's just the testy time at the moment where I think players are going to could get. It just feels like we're not really saying much at the moment, and that was sort of a big reason why I wanted to come on here, was that I think our media sort of interaction and how we are with fans and appearances and what we do is probably down to that we just don't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing for the club or how it's going through this uncertain time. So we're not doing it intentionally. We're just all we want to say really is that we really appreciate the support that we get every weekend, and we do want to connect with you. We're trying to do things that enable us to connect with you. The half lap before, after the warm up, things like that. They're just a little touch that keeps the connection between us and the fans, and we'll continue to do that through this time and hopefully through successful times in the future.
It's appreciated.
No more questions. I just wanted to extend my thanks for coming on here to come talk to us a bit, and also for everything you've put out down on the pitch and whenever you've spoken to the media and stuff. You come across as someone who actually really cares about this club, even if not necessarily you've been adopted into it as opposed to growing up with it. And we can all see the effort you put in, week out, pretty much 80 minutes after 80 minutes. So just thank you.
No, it's what I'm paid to do at the end of the day. So it's not. I'm not doing it for goodwill. But I know what you mean. I've genuinely loved it. Like I never thought. I mean, I've done it. I've felt like I've done this at all the clubs I've been at. But I think this place, I feel like I've got a bigger investment in. I feel like there is success going to come to this club. I think it's got good people around it, good fans, and like job's not done. Like I'm very keen to keep going as long as I can, and like that sort of commitment you just spoke about won't waver at all. Like I appreciate you saying that. It's been a great part of my career, this club.
One question to finish on, because I had quite a few messages asking if I could put this out there. One more year? Question mark.
I don't know. I like at this time of my career, like it's not a decision I'm probably going to make now. Like I said, like I've got a huge investment to this club. I think there is like success coming. Whether I'll be here playing when that happens, I don't know. But like I'll give everything I can for as long as I can. I think the one thing I've always said, and I don't know if I've said it publicly, but I want to stop when I feel like it's time to stop. I don't want to be here in 3 years playing once every 4 weeks because I can't, and I can't train on a Tuesday and a Monday. Like I can barely train Mondays at the moment, but like if it starts turning out I can't train Tuesdays as well, like I think like that might be like where I start calling it. I don't want to be the guy that's lingering around the environment where everyone's sort of just expecting you to get put down at some point. I've seen a lot of those come and go in their time, and unfortunately that's how you get remembered as. And like I've always said, like from not just this year but from a long time, like until if I ever feel like I'm starting to go that way, like I'll pull the plug before someone does it for me. So like, at the moment, body's good, head's good, loving it, love coming to work every day, and as long as that continues, like I'll keep going. But I do want to stop while body's still working and I'm still feel like I can do it. But yeah, like I said, like the training part of it doesn't excite me, it's the playing. And if I can only do that every 4 weeks, like that's not going to be that enjoyable. So I'll make that decision as and when it comes, really.
Good stuff. Well, thank you again, Josh, for reaching out and coming on. We appreciate your time this Wednesday evening. Thank you, Stephen Harley, as well, for jumping on the record this week. We'll be back next week, back to normal programming on the Cardiff Central Pod. We'll look ahead to that Zebra game. Rags are back in action this weekend as well, so we'll pick up how they're getting on in the SRC and maybe cast a bit of an eye over Wales's autumn internationals, but not too much of an eye on that, to be honest. But until then, next Tuesday, Josh, thank you. Steve, Harley, thank you, and we will catch you soon.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.